Jordan, I'm not gonna lie, that one got me today.
We got you today.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
It's still catchy.
It is. It is. Welcome everybody back to another episode of High and Tight. I am Jason Burton. Joining me as always is Jordan Jones, our assistant scouting director. We are here this week to talk about our first Power 25 update and then week two notes on a zillion players that our staff saw last week. So let's get rolling.
Okay, let's do this thing.
Jordan, our staff was at 20 games last week. 20 games last week. We did more games last week in the state of Virginia than these eyewash Kool-Aid drinking folks have done in the last 10 years in the state of Virginia. But I digress. Keep drinking the Kool-Aid. We'll keep providing the substance. 20 games last week. It is March. We're recording this on March 24th, Monday morning. It is March 24th. We have seen 77 teams in the state of Virginia. Again, 20 games last week. I don't know what our count is right now total, but I'm not gonna lie. We're probably approaching like 60, 70 games already, if I had to guess. Somewhere in there, especially with all the scrimmages that we were at. And then a crazy number for you to really take some time to digest is 90 plus arms in the state of Virginia. Okay. I'm going to see. I think I can share this. I'm going to see what we can do here. 90 plus arms in the state of Virginia. Let's see. I think I can get there. We go. Might be hard to see, but it's there. I promise you. There are over 30. I think there are 33 90 plus arms that we have seen on March 23rd, which is insanity. We'll get to the top one here in a little bit. Noah Yoder, shout out to Jake for just stumbling right into that one. Kind of like off script conversation. I was like, Jake, hey, like let's get you in there on Tuesday to that Midlothian game. We need to see Midlothian, and then I think Noah was supposed to throw on Thursday, and the schedule got shifted around or whatever. But I knew if he went Thursday, it was going to be a zillion scouts there. So I was like, hey, let's just get you in there and let you be able to work. And lo and behold, Yoder starts, goes 5 innings, I believe, up to 99. Jake said he had his gun, radar gun. Said he had the gun. He was holding it up, and he's like, it is 99. He was like, I think something might be wrong with my gun. And so there was like 4 or 5 other scouts there, and he checked with them, and he was like, hey, I got 99. And they were like, yep, that's what we got too. So Jake texted us. I won't tell everyone what Jordan said. That's the after hours pod, which is an electric pod, by the way. But that's the after hours pod. Needless to say, Jordan was not happy that he was not there. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, 33 arms, 90 plus in the state of Virginia. When we say, hey, like 90 is just another number, like, yep, like believe it or not, but it's true. I don't, I'm looking at it right here, and I'm looking at, a couple arms that are 90 plus that won't pitch at the next level, like just because like they're a positional guy. Then also looking at a handful of guys who are 90 plus who are uncommitted, who could commit right now. in terms of eligibility, during timeline and all. And like, so it's just, it's hard to get people to understand like that you got to be able to do something different. Um, Different pod, different day. But yeah, it was absolutely electric. I'm sure Jake was pumped. Said he couldn't sleep that night. He was just thinking about 99. But in addition to that, we have put data in for 254 pitchers at this point in time. 254 pitches at this time. So all of you folks out there yelling at the clouds saying, that we do this and we do that and events and you got to do this for data and da 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 da. 254 arms have gotten their profiles updated with their velocities already this year, and again, it's March 24th. So, shout out to our staff for absolutely crushing it as they always do. Now, let's get into this a little bit, Jordan. We're going to start off with our Power 25. Now, the first thing that I'm going to say is we're not going to go through the entire Power 25 team by team. Okay. The story, our Power 25 rolled out, I think this morning, or is currently out. If you want the full list, if you want some details on some teams moving in, why they moved in, why there's been movement, etc., go to the story. Pretty much all of those details are in there. But we are going to talk about 5 teams today. The first team being a team that was unranked that is now moving in, Atlantic Shores Christian School. The runners-up in Division II, Vista Division II last year, upset Highland in semifinals, played a close game with Greenbrier in the championship game. They're a year older. Their arms are, I think, better, even though they're the same arms. They're better. They're more efficient in the zone. They're getting deeper into games. The pitch counts are staying, relatively low, and they're being a little bit, I guess, cognizant about that, and which helps long term for this team down the road. But they're 7-1. They had one hiccup in a doubleheader where they split. But other than that, like, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, they've come out and kind of set the standard what they want to be this spring. They want to come out and really attack hitters offensively, and they've kind of done that. Patrick Dudley's been strong on the mound so far. Brent Beasley has thrown some big innings for them as well, and they have some younger guys as well in that lineup and on that team that have kind of starting to get their feet wet, get comfortable as they've gotten started. But I mean, they had a really close win with Trinity on Saturday against very quality arms. They beat a very quality Cape Henry team as well. So I mean, they're just getting started. And I think they are a team to watch as the spring continues to go forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I think I can say we. But shout out, and I want to say it was Brett Beasley. If I'm giving, if I'm giving bad information here, then I apologize. If I'm not crediting the right source out of the Atlantic Shores dugout, I apologize. But the Tonight We Steal the Moon, hollering it out of the dugout, and then the whole team going wild from that's a shout out to Gru and Steve Carell and the Minions or Despicable Me or whatever. But I heard that in the dugout, and it's just like silence, and then Brett or whoever says that, and the whole team goes wild. That was pretty electric. I enjoyed it. I just thought it was funny. It's just kind of random and off the cuff. So shout out to them. It always makes, it makes games fun. It makes it enjoyable. That's what I love about high school baseball, among many other things. But the camaraderie and team talk has been really solid so far. I got a chance to see Miller School this week. That's always fun. Hey, don't take him out. We like that guy. That's always electric. But all right, so that's Shores. We're gonna move to another team that was already in the rankings but is moving up a few spots, and that is Independence, the Indy Tigers. They're 3-0. 3 really quality wins: Loudoun Valley, Loudoun County, Riverbend. kind of a class, what has become a Class 5 rival, I guess, if you will, with Riverbend being there, going to the States last year and having a couple solid years here, kind of back to back. But a couple quality wins. Jordan, what do you have on Indy?
Yeah, they're moving into the number 14 spot. But the thing about this team, the offense has been rolling since the season has started. I mean, they put up 11 runs against Loudoun Valley, 12 against Loudoun County, and 8 against Riverbend. This is a team that has some offensive depth. Chase Opsgarden, Colton Hicks, Quinn Pock, Aiden Spania. Like, they have some guys that can really bang it in that lineup. And then they've gotten some quality pitching as well. So they have a veteran group there that's been there, has played some experienced varsity innings, but the offense has really been rolling for them. That was exciting to see, especially early in the season as some teams, trying to get comfortable, get their feet wet offensively, get their swing going. But the offense has been rolling so far this spring, and definitely a team that I can see being a very strong offensive team throughout the whole spring.
Yeah, I agree. But the best thing about them, to your point, is you see a lot of high school teams who, okay, they have really good arms. They have 1 or 2 bats, or they have, 3 or 4 bats. The arms are a little bit light, but almost all high school teams, just being very honest here and transparent, a fair majority of high school teams would have what we would term, especially when it comes to facing good arms, like some dead outs in the lineup, some more than others. And what that means is that certain parts of the lineup or whatever, just you don't get much production out of. And it's just, kind of getting through those guys to get back to the top. You don't see a lot of that with Indy, right? Like, I'll be honest, they don't have draft guys and huge impact players, like guys that are consistently running the ball out of the yard or throwing 93 or anything like that. But they just got a bunch of dudes who play. They just got a bunch of dudes who play. They compete in the box. They put the ball in play. They put pressure on defenses. They throw strikes. They're versatile. They just do a little bit of everything, right? And I think that's what makes them like a good team, is just they have a bunch of different guys that will fill different pieces. All right, now we're going to go up to a team who has, again, moved a little bit, but I say it's a significant move. Gainesville moving from the number 7 spot to the number 5 spot. They are 2-0 with a big win coming versus McLean. They came out kind of like gangbusters and started putting up some runs early on. That game was pretty well in hand, even though it was a little bit closer score-wise. That game was pretty well in hand for quite, for a good portion of it. I was there. Gainesville looked really solid, and honestly, Merritt was good on the mound, but I know he's going to be better, as I'm sure a lot of other arms kind of feel the same way, because it was negative 12 degrees and a 40-mile-an-hour wind that night. It was absolutely brutal. But he pitched his tail off. They had some big hits and some big spots. Jordan, what do you got on Gainesville?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this team and the roster they have, you have some really confident players that are confident in their ability, and they're going to show it on the field. And I mean, they came out against the defending 6A state champions, and they were ready for the challenge. They competed, and they got the job done. They also came out and beat Riverbend as well during the week. But I mean, just looking at this roster, it's a talented roster, and I think this spring they're really looking to get over the hump. And I think the roster is talented enough to really make a shot in the state tournament. But I mean, it's a good start for this team, and I think they're just getting started on what they can be this spring.
And I apologize for everybody for the coughing and sniffling and nose scratching and everything else, but I don't know how Jordan's not over there doing it. These allergies are kicking my tail. All right, Jordan. Now to the I don't want to say most important, but to the kind of hot topic, if you will. We have a flip at number 1 and number 2. I can, but give me a little bit, and I'll continue on that. I'll expand on that. But give me a little bit as to why that flip with number 1 now being St. John's and Miller School moving to number 2.
Yeah. So kind of want to start off with Miller School. They went down to Florida to kind of start off their season, and they played some very, very quality teams. Every game that they played down in Florida was quality teams from Florida, and those teams would probably be one of the top, if not all of them being the top of Virginia, because just the talented roster that they have. So yeah, they may have lost, and the record's 5-4, but they were all against really, really quality teams that would probably be at the top of any Virginia high school team in our Power 25. And then St. John's is 8-0 at number 1, and they came out and they won their games. So I mean, I get win losses, but you also got to think about the quality of losses too, because those Florida teams are extremely talented up and down those rosters. So that's why it's a little flip, but they're still at number 2 because they came back to Virginia and handled business like you're supposed to with teams that they played since they've been back.
Yeah, and I think that's important for everybody to understand. Like, you're still going to have people like, they lost 4 games. They should be, way down, da-da-da-da. Okay, like, if that makes you feel better about it, that's fine. But just understand, for the majority of teams that they show up and play inside of this Power 25, if in your mind you want to put them at 15 and you want your team to be at number 2, that's cool. Just know when y'all show up to the field, y'all are probably going to get boat raced. I'm just saying, if that makes you feel better. Right? Now, look, if they come back in state and they drop, a win or 2 or something like that to a team that is, roster makeup is not as good or something, that's a different conversation. But like you just said, the 4 teams that they lost to, and Jordan tiptoed around it. I'm just going to be straight to it. He said it. All 4 of those teams would be number 1 in the state of Virginia. All 4 of them. You got Florida teams that are a month ahead of Virginia teams. So they had already played, however many games. These kids have been going since whenever they start, right? Like, I know Florida, Prep Baseball Florida, like, they have events. They have to have events like the beginning of January because the high school season starts. They have to have events like December, January because the high school season starts like late January, something like that. So these teams have been going for a month. They are loaded rosters. Like, I give our guy Shooter a hard time all the time about like Florida, Texas, California, and all the love and this, that, and the other. But like, it's true. Right? Like, just look at like draft history and look at just the history of high school baseball and where players come from and stuff like that. Does that mean Virginia doesn't have good players? No, that does not mean that at all, or any other states. But it does mean that on average, especially where Miller School is going to play, the West Browards, the Tampa Jesuits, the Stoneman Douglases, all those teams, they're really freaking good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on the same side, we couldn't just leave them at number 1, right? Like, you schedule the tough games, you got to, win or compete in those tough games. Some games they competed a little bit more than others. Okay. But 4 games in 5 days versus that competition, that's going to test any pitching staff, even like a St. John's type pitching staff. And St. John's is in Florida right now. Okay. But again, before Miller School left for Florida, they had 1 game, and that was versus Highland. Okay. And don't quote me, but I want to say they beat Highland. Jordan, you can look it up and fact check me, but I want to say it was like 6-1, something like that.
Yeah, 6-1.
Look at that. What an elite pool. 6-1. And Highland's a top 10 team in the state. And they beat Georgetown Prep. Grace Christian came from North Carolina. They blanked them. They have a draft arm. They ran him out in like the 3rd or 4th inning. Okay. They have a potential draft arm. They ran him out in the 3rd or 4th inning. There's not an arm in this state that if they face, they're not going to be prepared for. May not beat him, but they're not going to be overmatched and be like, holy crap, we haven't seen this type of arm. Right? They saw the Rojas kid at Stoneman Douglas. He's really
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
But they beat Georgetown Prep. They boat raced Grace Christian from North Carolina, who Highland had split with. They beat Highland and they blanked Walsingham. Okay. They don't have any elite wins, but they've handled Power 25-esque teams with ease. And so that's the argument, right? Like, I'll die on that hill. I'll die on that hill. But again, if it makes you feel better and you want to think in your mind that they're the number 10 team because they lost 4 games to teams that are better than any team in this region, that's fine. Have at it. Feel that way, but they're number 2. So, Jordan, anything else to add on the Power 25? I mean, again, St. John's is at number 1. They beat Gonzaga, who's battling some injuries and some things like that right now. They beat Jackson Reed, who Jackson Reed has a quality win over St. Albans. I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that, as well as they beat Calvert Hall 3-1. And St. John's, like, straight up just has the best pitching staff in the state. Bar none, no question. Like, I think Miller School has the best combination of everything, offense, arms, this, that, and the other. But it is an elite pitching staff. They're 8-0. They've outscored opponents 91-10.
Not too bad.
91-10 in 8 games. They beat Calvert Hall, I believe, 3-1. And then one of their games that they had, I think it was like 17-6 or something like that. And I'm sure they just kind of threw off once they got ahead and ended up giving up some late runs, if I was just guessing. But, yeah, so those are a couple teams inside of the Power 25. Jordan, anything to add before we move on?
I mean, I just think, some teams, they had some cancellations last week. Once they get their feet wet, get those games in, definitely see some more movement throughout the week once they get those games in. Some teams only played 1 game. So definitely be on the lookout for some of those guys to start getting the win columns, make some movements as well.
Yeah, and it's just really tough right now with the high school and with the public school and private school schedules just really being unbalanced in terms of number of games. The weather affected. It looks like weather's affecting, some stuff early this week. So we'll see. But now we're going to move on to some players, the good stuff. Now, I hope, I pray, I don't promise that I killed audio on these videos or the audio was killed. I have a feeling since it's so many that there's going to be a couple that slip through, but we'll see. We'll see. First, we're going to talk about 2025 Radford commit, Patriot High School outfielder Luke Sullivan. Look at there. Audio killed. Shout out to Nolan. Kid just hits, right? Kid just hits. Hands are back, kind of preset back. It's a flatter path, middle to pull. He can impact it a little bit. Like Nolan said, he played center. He said he looked fine out there. Said he doesn't, he doesn't believe that we're talking like center fielder at the Division I level, but that he's a more than capable defender in the outfield. Jordan, anything to add on Sullivan?
Yeah, just physical frame, left-handed bat, and had like a track record of really hitting it. He's going to be a very important piece of being that run producer in the middle of that Patriot lineup. So it'd be good to see him getting off to a good start and see if he can continue, be that big bat for Patriot throughout the spring.
Yeah, and shout out to AG and Radford. They're playing well right now. He's got it going up there. And again, that's Luke Sullivan headed to Radford to 2025. Now we're moving to one that we kind of popped up on us a little bit last week. This is 2026 Justin Lee at Centerville High School. Was it Freedom? Went to PDG. Was it PDG last year? And then I'd seen a Justin Lee on the roster when I was sending rosters over to Cam. But I didn't think anything of it, right? I just thought I talked to Coach Burke at PDG, and he just said like he was kind of getting his body healthy right now, and potentially be back at PDG or whatever. So I just I didn't think that would be him on the roster. And then Cam texted me, he was like, "Hey man, this Lee kid can hit a little bit," and he was asking me some other stuff, and I was like, and he sent me the video, and I think you and I started texting, and I was like, "Oh, that's Justin Lee," like the one that we're all kind of aware of and know. But looks like he had a good night early in the week. I know it was a cold night, but looks like he had a good night. Got the barrel to some balls, kick and hit. Anything? What you got, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, it's just good to see him back healthy, getting the swing back in. Like just adding that bat to that center field team just makes them even more, give them even more depth to that offense. So that was definitely a surprise for me. I was, man, if he's on that center field team impacting baseball like he did the other night, definitely good for them down the road for sure.
No doubt. All right, I'm going to go over to Gainesville High School, and I got to see Ian Fournier. He's a guy who really just kind of popped up early for us. And honestly, just like a lot of high school guys do, like some make an early jump, some make a later jump. You got your guys who are just kind of slow and steady, gradual guys. He kind of jumped off early as like an offense first guy, and honestly, like just kind of plateaued a little bit. And we just hadn't really seen it in the high school games that we were at. We don't get to see him a ton in the summer, a little bit, but just a really good first performance of the year versus some quality arms. You saw the first swing there was a double off the fence, off the center field fence. Pegues, he didn't get to that one. He did get to one a little earlier that inning. But yeah, he just like it's controlled intent in the swing. It's got a little bit of loft in there. It's doubles power. He'll flash a little bit more to gap to pull. But yeah, just a really good first look. Again, you're talking about adding a piece to a lineup. It's a guy who's been there, but if he can have consistent production for that Gainesville lineup, we talked about earlier, you talked about, them wanting to kind of get over the hump, I guess, a little bit. To get to a state tournament, and he's definitely a guy that adds to that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Jordan, gonna hand one over to you. Trey Graydon.
Yeah, he got to start against Tuscarora, and he was dominant throughout the outing. He was really fastball dominant. Grabbed at 89 early. It was more 84, 87, but he was just working the outside corners. He picked up 11 Ks. In the outing, so he was just dialed in. I mean, only give up one walk as well, so he really set the tone for that Riverside team and led them to the win.
All right, now I am going to go to. I got some pretty good arms this past week. I didn't get the one, but I did get a couple. Aaron Dirks, Future Games alum, West Springfield. I believe Aaron was up to 90, if my memory serves me correctly, mostly upper 80s, couple 90s in there. It's such a unique fastball. He'll ride it sometimes. He'll cut it. It'll bore in on right-handed hitters. Like the fastball is just a really tough AB. Breaking ball, backs up. It's a little bit bigger shape. He showed a few sliders as well. But it is a quality fastball that allows him to compete, with that pitch alone. Obviously, the secondary will need to continue to kind of allow him to separate from some others. But thought he had a really strong first outing for the year. And then his opposing foe, if you will, Austin Dean, 2025. And Dirks is a South Carolina commit, 2026. Austin Dean, 2025, Virginia Tech commit, like a 7'4" lefty. No, I think he's like 6'8". I thought the operation delivery has cleaned up some from the last time I saw him. And just big physical presence. just kind of proportional, kind of even throughout. Um, Fastball was up to 91, struggled with some command in the first, um, but then settled in the second and third. Thought he was a little bit better. Showed fastball, shorter breaking ball, and a changeup. Um, I thought we saw him earlier on last year, and I know there were some ups and downs last year for him. I thought it was a good sign in kind of where he's trending, just more so with his effectiveness in game and his efficiency. Um, and so, yeah, good early look on those two arms. And then one of the stars of the day, a guy who we've seen a couple times, and um, I remember seeing him early on, and those were your early days as well. 2025 Patrick Saito is a Mary Baldwin commit. We've seen for a while, like, hey, this kid can get the barrel on the baseball. When he was younger, it wasn't a ton of impact, but it was more like doubles and like, okay, well, he's probably going to be corner outfield, maybe first base, right-handed hitter. Like, how much can he get to power? Dude, he is massive. He has added so much strength, and it's functional. And I think it might have been his second at bat. I think it was his second at bat. He runs one out of the yard to left center. I mean, you see him getting out of the box. You see his lower half. Like, he is enormous. But then he comes up later on in the game and goes backside double to the base of the fence. I think that's coming up here in a second after we get the celebration and all that. But he's just gotten huge. But yeah, goes backside double off the base of the fence. Like, the kid just hits, man. He just gets the barrel to the ball and just hits. I love watching those guys. Offense is fun. I was a pitcher, so I never got to get on the other side of the fence, so to speak. Sometimes you found some of the balls that I threw on the other side of the fence, but that's a story for another day. All right, Jordan, going to hand it over to you for a little bit. I think you got three guys here. First one being Jack Keane, 2025 Bucknell commit.
Yeah, I was at a pitching duel. It was Washington Liberty at Madison, and it was as advertised. Keane gave his team a quality start that they needed to have a chance to win. He threw 5 strong innings, and only gave up 1 hit and 1 run. He was 87 to 90. He was up to 91, but I mean, he held velo throughout the outing, and he was not afraid to work in on hitters. Fastball, as you can see, has some arm side run. He was getting some weak contact with the fastball, and that was the reason he was able to hold them to 1 hit. But I mean, the fastball was heavy. He mixed in a few breaking balls, a couple of change ups. But I mean, the fastball was definitely the go-to that gave them a chance to win late in that game. Then I'm gonna go to the opposite starter for Madison, Cale Yates, 2025. He was in control of the game from the beginning. He attacked his zone early. Fastball was really working the corners. He was up to 89, working in the 84, 87 range, but he was just holding it below 87, 86 later into the outing. He mixed in slider, curveball, but the slider was a more go-to secondary at 79, 81. So that was a firm breaking ball that kept hitters off balance. But he finished with 6 scoreless innings, picking up 5 strikeouts and 1 hit. And like, this guy's just a competitor and plays with composure that, they really lean on, and he will continue to throw some big innings for that Madison team. Then the guy that closed it out for Madison to seal the win, a 2026 lefty, Jimmy Bellini. And I know it was a short outing, short sample size, but he was electric in his outing. He came in and attacked hitters early. He was 83, 85 with the fastball. It really worked out of that sidearm slot. But the key was his ability to land that slider. He picked up 2 strikeouts on the slider. He was front dooring it to right-handed hitters. Then he'll run it in a little bit to end counts, get some swing and miss. But my first look at Bellini, and I was definitely impressed. I think there's some more velo in that arm, but his ability to spin is really effective.
3 things for me. Jack Keane, large human being. Yes. Jimmy Bellini, elite name. I don't know. I just like if we're talking like just what it sounds like, obviously we're going like Italian mafia or something like that. It's an elite name though. And then Yates, I know, like, just from seeing, social media, we're on social media all the time. Just from seeing on social media, Pudge raves about Yates. I have not seen him in person. I know you have seen him. I think Cam saw him last year. I'm pretty sure, or maybe you did.
I saw him last year as well, but I believe Cam did see him before I did. So
yeah. And so the one thing everybody comes back and says, and Pudge says it on Twitter as well, is just how much the kid pitches, how much he competes and stuff. And like, I don't, again, we talk about like what separates players. We talk about what separates arms, trying to get into the mind of high school players in today's game. And again, not the old man yelling at the clouds that's going to sit here and bash everybody for chasing velo or whatever. Like, yes, like velo is important, right? But it's just like everything. It's a piece of the puzzle. And what is the difference between 88 and 91? What's the difference in between 89 and 91? What's the difference in between 87 and 90? Like, not anything. What's the difference in between 92 and 95? A lot. Right? Like, there's a difference there. But when we're talking like that 87 to 91 range, 88 to 91 range, and obviously we can expand upon that, like, and get it, that's just very like blanket statement. But what is the difference? The difference is getting outs, right? You can throw 90, 91 all you want. Yeah, that's gonna open the door, but it ain't gonna get you in the house.
Yeah, no.
Right? Like, you still have to get people out. And I think that we as a baseball culture, community, whatever you want to call it, like, we need to, again, not yelling at the clouds, but we need to get back to that and understand that across the board. Parents, players, coaches at all levels, You look at some of these scores, some crazy scores in college baseball. The hitters are really good, okay, but they're not that good where we should probably be running up like 30 runs in a college game. But like, at the end of the day, you have to get outs. And you can't just do it versus the bad teams. You have to do it versus the good teams as well, right? That's what separates Bryce Eldridge. Guess what? He hit versus the good arms. He hit versus the bad arms. Jay Wolfick, when he was in high school, he was really freaking good versus everyone. James Triantos, when he was in high school, he was really freaking good versus everyone. Griff O'Farrell was really freaking good versus everyone. Carson DeMartini, when I saw him in high school, he hit versus everybody. That's the difference maker. When Yates shows up, you know what you're going to get.
Absolutely.
He may not overpower a bunch of hitters, but he is going to compete. He's going to throw strikes. He's going to spin it. He's going to mix it up. He's going to move it in and out. He's going to get people out. He's going to give you a chance to win baseball games. Right? And there's other things besides that. Don't get me wrong. That's not it. But that's a large piece of the puzzle. Because at the end of the day, if you want to win baseball games, you have to have winners. You have to have competitors. You have to have guys that aren't afraid of that situation in that moment and who are going to give you a chance to win.
100%.
Jumping off soapbox. All right. Now, speaking of people who give you a chance to win, him. He gives you a chance to win. No, we talk about there's a difference between 90 and 99, okay? So don't get me wrong. Comes out the gate, wins a basketball state champ. Look at that. That's just a banger. Comes out of the gate after a state championship in basketball. 3 days later, and like, I had gotten word and all that he was going to start that day, earlier in the day. And I just thought it was going to be just like a brief outing, just kind of try to keep knocking the rust off type thing. 5 innings later and still sitting low to mid 90s later. a couple 99s mixed in, a couple Jake texts. So it's a special arm. That's Noah Yoder, 2025 Duke commit. Really don't have to really go in depth on that one. If you don't know about him, climb up from under whatever rock you were living under and join us here in 2025 high school baseball. But yeah, just really solid performance for him. I think the Midlow team battled him a little bit. So it was good. It was a good early test for him. It's a good early test for Midlow. They won't see any other ones like that unless they see him again when they go to their place. But yeah, Noah Yoder, 2025 Duke commit, Atlee High School right-hander. He's a large reason why they have a chance to repeat. They have a lot of other reasons as well, but he's a large piece of that puzzle. Going to go west. I know we got out west once last week. One of our guys, Grant, was out west and got to see Cave Spring at Northside. He talked highly about 2027 Logan Meinster. And Logan, if I mispronounce your last name, I apologize. Had a couple hits on the day. Looked a little bit in depth after the game. Looked like he was pretty pumped there about that swing. But he just sprayed it around. The biggest thing, looked at the profile. It says it's like a 7.3-ish runner, 7.2, 7.3 runner. He got out the box much better. It's a good body. Grant said he showed some ability to just get the barrel on the baseball and just hit. Use the whole field. Jordan, anything else on Meinster?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked how close he stayed on those pitches, especially on the outer half, and just send it the other way. Tight barrel turns for him. But definitely, Cave Spring has some underclassmen there that can definitely has a bright future there and be able to, contribute to their success throughout the spring and the near future as well.
And don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure they are under some new leadership and a new coach there. And I really hope I'm not completely off the path with this one. But I swear I saw something where they had one of the former Roanoke coaches in there is the coach at the Cave Spring program now. So they're going to bring some college coaching experience, if that is the case. And like you said, some young guys, some uncommitted guys. They have some talented players in there. You got Meinster and Evan Lee and a couple of other guys in there. Ergo. But yeah, it's a solid lineup with some younger uncommitted guys. They should be fun to watch. I'm sure we'll see them again this spring. Now we're going to go to a guy who has had an absolute phenomenal start to the spring. Jordan, I'm gonna let you take this one since quote unquote he's your guy. 2026 Trip Faison from Cox High School.
Yeah, man, he started the season on fire. He's impacting the baseball, high energy guy. He's at the top of the order for Cox, and he was one of our picks to be impact players, breakout players this year, this spring, and he's definitely making that known thing for Cox this spring. He's been impacting the baseballs, can spray it around the yard, go out in the outfield and run baseballs down. But I mean, this guy's, we've seen him for a while, and it's good to see, him continue to get better and, just really that swing really playing in games. So that was good to see for Tripp. And, if he can continue to do that at the top of the order, that team's going to continue to be very dangerous down in the beach.
And I don't know if you touched on it, but he had a bolt his next game, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
So I think he's got two. And we're going to have some shared, right? It's a give and take. It's a give and take relationship, you and I. So we're gonna have some shared credit here. Jordan is taking Tripp is his guy. Like Jordan's the new Corey Alexander of High and Tight.
Oh,
podcast.
Whoa.
Brutal announcer, by the way. Oh man, I'm so glad that the ACC season is over, so that we don't have to listen to Corey Alexander anymore, my guy. But Tripp is Jordan's guy, apparently. But again, we're going to have the shared wealth here. He was my pick for a breakout spring. But I picked Jordan's guy, so I guess Jordan gets the love here. Um, but all jokes aside, like I was talking to Jordan, and we are like, hey, like there's some guys where we think are going to have really good springs. I was like, hey, let's get together a list of the 10 guys that we think have a chance to have a really good spring. Maybe had to share the limelight, if you will. Like Tripp was down the order last year. He played pretty much every single day. But you had guys like Irby and Parker White and some of those other guys there. And so, like, he was kind of one of those guys that when you showed up, like, you knew he was there and you knew he had a chance, but, like, all of the spotlight was kind of on those guys in that offense. And now he's got his chance to shine this year, and I think he's doing a really good job of it, obviously. So anyway, that's kind of how that story came about. Is literally, I was like, hey, like we can't just talk a whole story about Tripp, right? Like, so we came up with a list and threw that out, and so Tripp, shout out to you. You were the fire starter for that story. But we're going to move to another guy that was in that game, 2025, Colin Kim, currently uncommitted, left-handed hitter. I just want to kudos to him for showing up. Like it's a tough time that we are in with recruitments and things like that, and the college landscape changing. And I say this, like his performance is not showing any sign of slowing down. If anything, it's getting better. This is honestly one of the few times that I've seen him really turn the barrel and impact. Mike was out there and just raved about, his approach. He's always been like bat to ball, spray it around, that type of thing. It's just good to see him impact it and get off to a good start to the spring. Somebody's going to get a really good hitter, a good athlete, an outfielder who can play multiple positions. So if you're looking for a guy that can impact your lineup, a left-handed hitter that can run a little bit, Colin Kim at Lansdowne 2025. Jordan, anything to add there?
I mean, like we've always talked about his bat to ball skills, the ability to put the ball in play, use the backside, and we've talked about how him turning the barrel and impacting the baseball, that was his next step. So if he can do that on a consistent basis, I mean that just makes it better for him and that Lansdowne team throughout the spring.
All right, now we're going to move on. I was at Miller School on what day was that? Wednesday. All the days run together. I was at Miller School on Wednesday. Evan Hankins got the start on the mound versus Georgetown Prep. You talking about throw strikes? Like he was probably like, I don't know, somewhere in the 15, 18 pitch range if I had to guess in the first inning. Threw a ton of strikes. I think he threw like 3 or 4 balls in that first inning. Just absolutely filled it up. Upper 80s, fastball, breaking ball, changeup. Used the changeup pretty effectively, but it was at the plate where he made some big impacts on the day. That is a home run early on in the game. I believe that was – I don't know if it was his first or second at bat. I can't remember. Obviously have it written down, but then later on he gets a 2-strike pitch up in the zone, does a nice job getting on plane, driving that ball back through the middle. Just a solid all-around day for Hankins. I know, they've been facing some really, really good arms, and some of those arms left-handers that are really, really good. So it's been some tough looks for him early. And it was good to see him kind of get back on pace with things. That's 2025 Evan Hankins, Tennessee commit. And then going to go to Drew Wade. One word to describe Drew Wade: dog. Not much pitching video that happens at Miller School. It's a unique, it's an awesome setup, but in terms of like getting pitcher video and stuff like that, it's pretty funky. If you've never been, it's like elevated. Getting velos is easy, but getting some video is tough. because it's elevated, and then you have a chain link fence, and then you have it's like a 3-foot chain link fence, and on the other side of that chain link fence you have a net that you can't really like just kind of grab and get video through because it's on the other side of that chain link, and it's kind of leaning forward a little bit. So it's really tough. So that's why it's tough to get video for pitchers at Miller. But comes in, I think it was a 2-run game versus Georgetown Prep. Comes in the 7th, and he's been closing and kind of cleaning things up. And I think I wrote it up in the Scout blog. You can go read the full thing on Thursday. But he's the perfect guy to be a closer. I don't care if he's a freshman or not.
Yeah.
Like, he is a perfect guy. He gives zero flying flips about who you are, about how good of a hitter you are. Like, he does not care. Right? And, like, I'm not saying that Drew Wade probably better now than I was when, but like that was my mindset too. It's like I'd rather come in with bases loaded and 1 out than a clean inning or start a game. Like, that was just my mindset. I was an adrenaline guy. Like, so I like closing and relieving in kind of high leverage situations. Drew's similar to that. He's got a pretty freaking good one to teach him there. Just so happens to be one of the best closers of all time, a Hall of Famer. But yeah, if you've known this kid, and you've been around him, you know that Drew don't care.
No.
Drew doesn't care. Like, he walked the kid. I think he walked the leadoff guy and, got into some deeper counts on the next two. Command was kind of up and down, but he's going to challenge. Like, he's going to tell you, come get it. If you hit it, cool, congrats, but don't care. Got 2 strikeouts and then got a pop-up to end the game. And the 2 back-to-back punch-outs, it's just like he punches the guy out, and he's just like, it's not like the super show the kid up type thing, but like he'll run it by a guy to strike him out, and he just kind of looks at him like, well, thanks for coming. And next one up. But just an absolute competitor. Like, the kid is an absolute competitor. Jordan, you want to expand on that any?
Yeah, just like, I don't know a kid that is more fiery than him on the mound. Like, he wants the ball in those situations, and like you said, he's not going to care. And we saw that at Junior Future Games this last summer against a very quality team. He's like, I want the ball, and Drew does what he does, and it's good for him, especially that Miller team, having someone on that back end of games you can trust and get the ball to. He's going to compete and do what he does, and so he's just a very fiery player that I enjoy watching pitch.
I think Drew's the one that got me in trouble with that umpire that had dumped.
Oh, 100%. Drew was instigating that one. 100%. Yes.
Drew almost got me bounced. Nah. But super competitor. But they won 6-4. Noah Gray does what Noah Gray does. He hits. He had 2 hits on the day. But all of that stuff is in the Scout blog, so video and everything. Next one I'm going to go to, we've talked about this guy, I believe, already.
Yeah. I think you're on mute.
Yeah, there I am, on mute. Shout out to me. Drew Lavoisier, 2027. Talked about him before, wrote about him a few weeks ago in the Scout blog. Just a really good performance from him last week versus Albemarle. I was able to kind of catch a double dip while I was in the Charlottesville area. The kid just competes. Same thing as I talked about like the other week with him. There's some really short spurts of like just kind of losing a feel for the zone. And then he gets back in it and just kind of just runs with it. Fastball work to the arm side. He was dotting guys up, blowing guys away. Velo was similar, maybe a tick down from the week before. But I thought it was a really good performance, really gutsy performance from him. They got up early, and sometimes you see those younger arms kind of take their foot off the gas a little bit when a team gets up and isn't able to come back out and give the team a shutdown inning. That was not the case. He just continued shutdown inning after shutdown inning. I think he ended up working like 4 or 5 innings, and had like 10 punchies. I forget the exact numbers, but he was running it up there. So that's one to watch. He continues to show well when we see him. And then Finn Whipple, 2025, Harvard commit. I think that it's been so much more consistent early this spring. In the past, there's been, last year there was some swing and miss issues at times when we saw him. And he's been on bat, on barrel much more frequently when I've seen him twice so far this spring. Again, it's probably one of those situations like where it's a little bit of a larger role for him. You had your Sowers and Kamen Goods and Ryan Blands and all these other guys that were upperclassmen, had been there for years. And he was able to kind of take a back seat to those guys, to where now, like, hey, like if this Freeman team is going to be successful, like they usually are, like he's going to play a large part of that because of the loss of run production and offense and upper class leadership and stuff that they've had. So he had a couple hits on the day. He just missed one. I think he was just out front a little bit on one. That I think either went out or went right, right at the corner of the fence in left field. The other week he went double backside in the gap. I think it was a right changeup, if I'm not mistaken. I love those. I know we're going to get into some stuff later. But right changeups, those are my favorite in high school. I like seeing those. Anyway, but yeah, Finn Whipple, really strong start to his season. That's Douglas Freeman, 2025, going to Harvard. Next one we're going to go to is a 28 that we had not seen. Had heard about, and watched some video on, but had not seen in person. Nolan got a chance to see him. Jordan Trent O'Malley.
Yeah, I mean, you look at him, you can see some physicality in that frame, so it's a little more strength added. That's a little more advanced in that class, but I mean, you see some quick hands. He rips his pitch to the left side, so I think there's some ability to impact the baseball. I think he needs to lift a little baseball more if he wants to, run it out the yard. But I mean, there's some physicality there that you could definitely like and have some future value for that Langley team. So it's definitely good to see him in person, get some stuff on him. Because I definitely think the physicality that he brings can definitely be some value for that team throughout the spring.
Yeah, and again, it was good. Nolan, like I said, Nolan got out there. It was good to see him early on. I know we'll see him again this spring. But a 28, who potentially has some offensive impact at the plate. Pitches a little bit too, from what I've seen video-wise, is like a low to mid 80s, maybe a little bit better, but mostly what I've seen is low mid 80s, maybe in that 82, 85-ish range. But right, physical hitter. 2028 at Langley, and that is Trent O'Malley. Jordan, you can clean us up here. What do you got? You got two guys left. Who you will go with first?
I'm gonna go with 2026 ECU commit Jack Woda. He made his presence felt early in the game, so that line drive back up the middle for a single, and then he will come up later in the game. Actually, it was next AB, and he'll sink this ball down the line for a double. When he gets to the plate, he's not going to get cheated. He wants to swing with some impact, has some feel for the zone as well. And then behind the dish, he has one of the top arms in the state behind the dish. He can really manage the run game. He really didn't get any chances to throw anybody out, but when he's given a chance, he can definitely be a weapon in managing the run game as well. But it's a physical athlete, especially above average runner for a catcher as well. 6'6" runner, so he can change the game with some impact, running and defensively. So it was good to see him kind of continue to swing it well early on this spring for Bishop O'Connell. And then Jack Ingram, he was for Yorktown 2026. He had a double early in the game. He got to that pitch low in the zone and sent it into left center field, and he really had that offense was rolling early on in the game. That he came up later with a line drive single back up the middle. So a multi-hit day for him. I think there's some athleticism there, some room to add strength, but his ability to impact the baseball, be on barrel, or a mid upper 80s arm. I think that was good to see, especially for Yorktown, having someone aggressive in that lineup, and get some offensive starter for them in a big win over Bishop O'Connell.
Yeah, I was going to say big win for Yorktown. Was that they call it the battle for
It's a battle
Arlington?
of Irvington. Yeah, they were talking about that like the whole time. So it was a little bit of built up pressure there. Some Dave wanted to get after. It was definitely a competitive game. So that was good to see.
Yeah, shout out to Nova. I got up there the other day, and when I text you and Jake, it was like 3.5 miles. It was like 24 minutes. So
Crazy,
shout,
crazy.
shout out to that area. I love going up there and driving. It's a good time. All right, we were gonna go pet peeves at high school games or pet peeves at games, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I don't want to get Jordan and I in trouble. Boss man didn't okay it. Because that could be kind of crazy. Like I'd probably start off with like, hey, like I've been here for an hour and a half. Don't put your chair on top of my bag, or don't
Mm.
take it. Take your own privilege and move my stuff. But thanks. We're not gonna go any further than that.
That's on the after hours pod.
Yeah, that's way after hours pod. That's the like we're gonna talk about this and we're gonna be on here. We're just not gonna hit record. Um, but yeah. So all right, Jordan. I don't want to. We've been on here for an hour. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but um, when you're going out, give me one thing. I was going to go top three, but give me one thing for hitter, one thing for pitchers that stands out the most to you when evaluating a player. One thing for hitter, one thing for pitchers.
So for hitters, your aggressiveness at the plate. Um, you know, Good hitters aren't passive. It doesn't matter what count you're in, what pitch it is. If it's a pitch over that white plate and you can hit it, get your swing off. I don't like, always taking their first pitch, you get behind. Like good hitters, you think you can hit behind counts to good hitters, but good hitters don't want to get behind. They want to, if it's across that plate, they can hit it. They're going to get after it. They're going to try to get their best swing off. So that's my number one thing when I'm evaluating hitters: how aggressive you are. And yeah, you can be aggressive, but like swing at pitches in the zone as well, and not just chasing stuff in the dirt, bad pitches, but good quality pitches in the zone. Are you getting your best swing off? Are you being aggressive early in counts or throughout your at bats? That's my number one thing for hitters. Pitchers. I think just your efficiency in the zone with multiple pitches. Like you can be fastball attacking the zone, but if that secondary isn't working, that kind of makes you one dimensional. So your effectiveness and being able to spend multiple pitches in the zone for strikes and missing those bats, that's one of those things that I really look to when I'm evaluating pitchers. If you can throw multiple pitches in the zone for strikes and miss those bats, those are the one things for hitters and pitchers that I really look at when I'm evaluating.
So I'll double back the hitter thing. I'm not going to expand on it, but could not agree more. If you're not an aggressive hitter, you're not a hitter. I'll leave it there. That doesn't mean you're swinging at everything. Okay, don't take that. Don't you know bend my words or whatever you want. Don't like. Don't alter. Don't take what I'm saying out of context. Um, you still have your pitches, you still have your zones and stuff like that, but passive hitters don't hit straight up, not at the next level. Um, but my biggest pet peeve or whatever biggest thing I'm looking for in hitters, you can't swing and miss on fastballs. I don't care how hard the dude's throwing. That doesn't matter. Like if you're not getting there and you're swinging and missing on fastballs, then there's some bigger issues. Um, you know, everybody says, well, I say everybody, like it's kind of an old saying like, hey, what's the best way to hit a curveball? Hit the fastball.
Yeah, don't get to it.
Right? But then that becomes an issue if you can't hit the fastball. Right? There's not a ton of really good breaking ball hitters in the world. How do I know that? Because look at how much emphasis is being put on breaking balls now. You got sliders and cutters and all this stuff, more emphasis being put on that because good hitters hit fastballs. So hitters, you got to hit fastballs. Don't care to velo. And if we're swinging through and we're missing and we're late on 80, like the on-deck batter is getting blown up and your thumbs are getting taken on 80, probably needs to make some adjustments, some major ones. Pitchers, agree 100%. You got to be able to do something different. Like Jordan said, you got to be able to do something different with throwing multiple pitches for strikes and all that. Be a competitor. Be a competitor. I don't care how hard you throw. I do. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I probably it is again. The velo opens the door.
Yeah.
But if you're a non-competitor, right? If you're throwing, you throw. Everybody says nobody cares how hard you threw ball for. Within reason, that is 100% true, right? You throw 99 to the backstop, somebody cares. They'll take a chance and figure it out. Yeah. But like 87 spraying it, uncompetitive pitches, and 87 filling it up, or like just say 87, just say 87 uncompetitive and 85 like super competitive. As far as at the high school level, take the 85 guy, the 84 guy, all day long.
Yep.
I've seen a whole lot of arms. We got beat. I guess it was, 2017. It was 2017. Got beat at Great Bridge. I think it was like 1-0, 2-0, something like that. Coach Townsend, if you're watching, I'm sure you're not. If you were watching, you're not watching at this point. But Townie's team beat us like 2-0, 1-0, something like that. And before we left, I talked to Jerry, and this was when I was just kind of tinkering around with working some events here and there. And Jerry was like, "Hey, we were literally had gotten food for the guys, and we were getting ready to get on the bus. They were loading stuff up and all that stuff. And we were leaving for regional semis." And I talked to Jerry, and Jerry said, "Yeah, they're going to throw like a soft lefty at you." I was like, "Shit, we can keep the bus here. Ain't even no need to go." But they beat us like 2-0 with a soft lefty who just threw strikes and just mixed pitches. But be a competitor. Compete with what you have. Don't shy away with what you have. Like, you have to be a winner to be successful in college baseball. I don't care what your tools are. You have to be a winner. Whether it's a Division III level, Division II, Division I, whatever, you have to be up for the challenge, and you have to want it more than the guy who's in front of you. And you have to be willing to compete in the zone versus that hitter. So those are two things for me, like watching the competitiveness of an arm and watching for hitters who are on time and who hit fastballs, and who do it consistently, not just every once in a while. We're going to try to do some more of that each time when we're talking about, in these weekly notes and stuff like that. But again, if you want anything else, more notes on players, video, all that stuff, go to the Scout blog. We have Jake's are running on Mondays. The Diamond Notes from other staff is running on Tuesdays. Jordan's are Wednesdays. Mine are Thursdays. Ton of content, ton of information. I mean, shoot, we'll probably talk about like over 60, 70 players this week alone in those Scout blogs combined. So jump in there, give them a look. Appreciate everybody joining us. I thought this was an awesome kind of first full-on regular season podcast, talking about a bunch of players. As shown in the beginning of the podcast, events are out, invites have gone out. We have a ton of registrations coming in. Please remember, for some of the events like state games and things like that, those are limited position events just because of positional needs. Appreciate everybody joining us, and we will see